In the depths of West Africa, where the sun kisses the earth with a relentless fervor, a nation was silently rising from the ashes of dependence. Burkina Faso, a name that echoes the dignity of its people, was about to rewrite its history. For decades, the country had been chained to a vicious cycle of poverty and debt, a narrative woven by foreign powers that offered aid with one hand and took it away with the other. The streets of Ouagadougou, the vibrant capital, were a silent testament to the daily struggles of a resilient but weary people, tired of empty promises, of imposed policies, and of a future that always seemed out of reach. The debt, like an omnipresent shadow, loomed over every home, every market, every dream. It was a heavy burden, an unwanted inheritance passed down from generation to generation, suffocating the potential of an entire nation. But something was about to change. A new chapter was about to be written, not with the ink of foreign aid, but with the sweat and determination of the people of Burkina Faso. The turn of fate began with a bold declaration, an act of defiance that echoed through the corridors of global power. Dr. Apollinaire Kayelem de Tambela, the Prime Minister of Burkina Faso, took the podium not as a leader begging for handouts, but as a visionary announcing the liberation of his people. With a firm and unwavering voice, he declared that the domestic debt of $4.79 billion would be paid, not with the help of the IMF or the World Bank, but with the nation's own resources. It was a moment of rupture, a paradigm shift that shocked the world. The Western powers, accustomed to dictating the terms of the financial game, watched in disbelief as a small African nation dared to challenge the status quo. The news spread like wildfire, igniting a flame of hope in hearts that had long grown accustomed to the darkness of dependency. The saga of Burkina Faso was just beginning, and the world was about to witness the power of a nation united in its quest for sovereignty. The strategy behind this financial audacity was as simple as it was brilliant. Instead of holding out a hand to foreign creditors, the government of Burkina Faso turned inward to its own people. The issuance of government bonds to local investors was the first step in a revolutionary journey. Companies, banks, and ordinary citizens were invited to invest in the future of their own nation, to become shareholders in Burkina Faso's sovereignty. It was an appeal to trust, a call for unity around a common goal, and the people responded. They responded with their savings, with their faith, and with the certainty that they were building something bigger than themselves. The trust in the country's leadership, personified in the figure of Dr. Tambela, was the foundation upon which this new financial architecture was built. Each bond purchased was a vote of confidence, a brick in the construction of a truly independent nation. The path to financial liberation was not without its perils. Burkina Faso faced a perfect storm of challenges: political instability, terrorist threats, and the constant pressure from a West that did not look kindly upon its audacity. But the government stood firm, navigating these turbulent waters with unwavering determination. Transparency in fiscal management and a commitment to reducing the national debt were the compasses that guided the country through the storm. The trust of investors, both local and international, was won not with empty promises, but with concrete actions. Every step was carefully calculated. Every decision was made with the aim of strengthening the economy and ensuring a prosperous future for generations to come. The resilience of the people of Burkina Faso, forged in years of adversity, was the driving force that propelled the nation toward its goal. The land of Burkina Faso, rich in natural resources, held the key to its liberation in its subsoil. Gold, one of the main engines of the country's economy, became the backbone of the debt repayment strategy. Revenue from the gold industry was channeled to support domestic bonds, offering an additional layer of security for investors. It was a way of telling the world that Burkina Faso was not bluffing, that it had the means to honor its commitments. The strategic exploitation of its natural resources, combined with prudent fiscal management, created a virtuous cycle of growth and stability. Gold, which for centuries had been exploited by foreign powers, was now at the service of the people of Burkina Faso, financing their development and guaranteeing their sovereignty. The mobilization of local savings was another fundamental pillar of Burkina Faso's strategy. Banks, pension funds, and companies were encouraged to invest in government bonds, not just as an act of patriotism, but as a business opportunity. The bonds offered a safe and profitable return, while at the same time contributing to the payment of the national debt. It was a win-win partnership, where private interest aligned with the public interest. The capital that was once sent abroad in search of higher returns was now reinvested in the country itself, fueling the engine of economic growth. The message was clear: the future of Burkina Faso was in the hands of its own people, and every citizen had a role to play in building that future. The collaboration between the public and private sectors was the glue that held together all the pieces of this complex financial machinery. The government of Burkina Faso understood that it could not do it all alone, that it needed the support and expertise of the private sector to achieve its goals. Public-private partnerships were established to channel private capital into infrastructure projects and the purchase of domestic bonds. This synergy between the state and the market created a sense of shared responsibility for the country's economic success. The development of Burkina Faso was no longer an exclusive task of the government, but a collective project that involved all sectors of society. The joining of forces was the secret to success, the proof that together we are stronger. To attract a wider range of investors, the government of Burkina Faso innovated in the financial market. The introduction of new financial products, such as bond options, made investing in public debt more accessible and attractive to different investor profiles. The deepening of the financial market was a strategic measure to ensure that government bonds were accessible to everyone, from large financial institutions to small savers. The democratization of investment was a way of involving the whole of society in the country's project of financial liberation. Every citizen, no matter how small their contribution, felt part of something bigger, of a movement that was changing the destiny of a nation. The funds raised from the domestic debt were not only used to pay the bills of the present, but to build the foundations of a prosperous future. The government of Burkina Faso invested heavily in long-term projects aimed at improving the country's economic resilience. Improvements in transport, energy, and mining infrastructure were prioritized, with the aim of creating a more favorable business environment and attracting new investment. Every paved road, every power plant built, every modernized mine was a step towards a more secure and prosperous future. The investment in long-term economic growth was the guarantee that Burkina Faso's financial liberation would not be an isolated event, but the beginning of a new era of sustainable development. While Burkina Faso was charting its own course, the West watched with a mixture of astonishment and distrust. The European Union, led by powers that for centuries had exploited Africa's resources, suspended all aid and imposed sanctions on the country after the military coups of 2022. It was an attempt to stifle the rebellion, to force Burkina Faso to bow to its designs. But the African nation did not yield to the pressure. On the contrary, the hostility of the West only strengthened its determination to move forward with its project of sovereignty. Burkina Faso's message was clear: we do not need your help, we do not want your interference. We are the masters of our destiny, and we will build it with our own hands. Burkina Faso's response to Western pressure was an act of courage and self-confidence. Instead of lamenting the loss of foreign aid, the country turned inward to the strength of its people and the wealth of its resources. The decision to rely on domestic resources, local markets, and its own financial systems was a watershed moment in the country's history. It was proof that dependence was not an inevitable destiny, but a choice. And Burkina Faso chose freedom. It chose sovereignty. It chose dignity. The African nation was showing the world that it was possible to build a prosperous future without submitting to the dictates of foreign powers. Burkina Faso's success in paying its domestic debt without Western help became a beacon of hope for other African nations. The story of the small West African country challenged the narrative of dependency that had been imposed on the continent for so long. The saga of Burkina Faso proved that Africa has the resources, the talent, and the potential to finance its own development. The key, as Dr. Tambela's government demonstrated, is to focus on local solutions, build local markets, leverage domestic debt, and foster investor confidence. The Burkina Faso model became a roadmap for the economic liberation of an entire continent. The story of Burkina Faso is a lesson for the world, a lesson about the importance of sovereignty, self-determination, and confidence in one's own potential. It is the story of a people who refused to accept the role of victim and decided to become the protagonists of their own story. It is proof that the unity of a people around a common goal can move mountains. The saga of Burkina Faso is a reminder that the true wealth of a nation lies not in its natural resources, but in the strength and resilience of its people. It is a story of hope, courage, and inspiration for all those who dream of a more just and balanced world. Burkina Faso's journey towards financial independence was marked by a profound social transformation. The feeling of national pride flourished, uniting the people around a common purpose. The streets, once marked by apathy, now vibrated with a new energy. People felt part of something great, of a silent revolution that was changing the course of history. Confidence in the future, once a distant mirage, became a palpable reality. The youth, who once dreamed of leaving the country in search of opportunities, now saw a promising future in their own land. The change was not only economic, it was a change of mentality, a rediscovery of the identity and potential of a nation. The international community, initially skeptical, began to look at Burkina Faso with new eyes. The country's success in honoring its financial commitments without external help attracted the attention of investors from all over the world. What was once seen as a risky country was now seen as a land of opportunity. The economic stability and political predictability, hard-won, became a magnet for foreign capital. But this time, the terms of the game were different. Burkina Faso was no longer on its knees begging for handouts. It was standing tall, negotiating as an equal, seeking partnerships that were mutually beneficial. The African nation had earned the respect of the world not by the force of arms, but by the strength of its ideas and the soundness of its actions. The visionary leadership of Dr. Tambela was fundamental to Burkina Faso's success, but he was not alone. Behind him, there was a team of competent and dedicated technocrats who worked tirelessly to implement the new economic policy. They were economists, lawyers, engineers, and public administrators who believed in the potential of their country and were willing to give their best to transform it. They were the unsung heroes of Burkina Faso's financial revolution, the architects of a new future. Their competence and patriotism were the guarantee that the Prime Minister's vision would become a reality. The story of Burkina Faso is also the story of these men and women who, behind the scenes, worked to build a more prosperous and just nation. The Burkinabe diaspora also played a crucial role in this journey of liberation. Scattered around the world, Burkinabes abroad never forgot their roots. They followed with attention and hope the transformations in their country of origin and contributed in various ways to its success. Whether through sending remittances, investing in local businesses, or promoting the country's image abroad, the diaspora was a strategic and lie in the struggle for sovereignty. Their contribution was proof that love for the homeland knows no borders. The saga of Burkina Faso is also the story of a nation that knew how to mobilize all its children, at home and abroad, around a common project. Burkina Faso's legacy for Africa is invaluable. The country has shown that it is possible to break the cycle of dependence and build a future of prosperity based on its own resources. Its experience has become a case study, a model to be followed by other nations that long for their economic sovereignty. Burkina Faso's message has echoed throughout the continent, inspiring leaders and citizens to believe in Africa's potential. The silent revolution that began in the streets of Ouagadougou has the potential to spread throughout the continent, transforming Africa from a continent of dependence into a continent of opportunity. The story of Burkina Faso is still being written. The challenges are many, and the road ahead is still long. But the African nation has already proven to the world that it is capable of overcoming the greatest adversities. Its resilience, its courage, and its determination are the guarantee that the future will be even brighter than the present. The saga of Burkina Faso is a story of hope in motion, a living testament to the power of self-determination. And the world watches with admiration and respect as a small African nation continues to rewrite the rules of the global game. And so, in the arid lands of West Africa, a seed of hope was planted, a seed that, watered with the sweat and determination of a people, blossomed into a leafy tree of sovereignty and prosperity. The story of Burkina Faso is a beacon that illuminates the path to a more just and balanced future, not only for Africa, but for the entire world. It is proof that when a people unite around a dream, there is no force capable of stopping them. The saga of Burkina Faso is the saga of humanity in its incessant search for freedom, dignity, and a place in the sun. And this saga, my friends, is just beginning.